does it show in the research, or if it doesn't, do you have an opinion as to why the trust in media is declining, as opposed to the research saying it's just declining?
That's what we're doing at the moment. We're working. We've kind of done the what, and now we're looking at the why. We asked people to, align with certain things in the survey. So, are you in agreement or strong agreement with the following statement, etc., typical survey stuff. But we also asked if they wanted to offer their own views on why they didn't trust the news. And one of the big issues is not just trust, but news avoidance. So news avoidance is growing fast in New Zealand, where some of the, it's a strange thing, but we're very interested in the news, but we're some of the world's strongest news avoiders. News avoidance isn't, I always avoid it, never watch the news or listen. It's not that. It's, I find myself consciously at various times avoiding the news. So the reasons that have come through already, I've analysed them. We've parked them into what I think of as camps. There's quite a bit of cross, shared ownership of these camps. But the two huge ones are, I avoid the news because it's just overwhelmingly negative, and it's really bad for my mental health. So Mary Mulilati, who's my co-author in this research, in fact, the lead author, she and I are both ex-journalists. So we sort of know newsroom culture as well as academic research, and we teach journalism at AUT. So we know, as many journalists do, that there's long, ever since we were cub reporters, there has been an understanding in newsrooms that journalists aren't well trusted by the public. But this has gone further than that. Not trusted, and that the news is negative. So people have always complained about the news being negative. That's not new. But what is new, and journalists' response to that would always be, well, we have limited space and time. You don't want us to tell fluffy stories about puppies. You need to know what's going wrong in the world. That's why we're here, right? That's what journalism's about. So we always just took the criticisms of negativity on the chin and sort of explained it away as part of the job. And of course, we had a much more captured audience then. So whether it was negative or not, people still watched the news. But now, one, they don't have to watch the news so much because there's so much other information available. And two, they are now saying that it's not just negative, it's overwhelmingly negative, and it's really affecting my mental health. Maybe part of that is a better understanding of mental health now. I don't know. But,
because that might be a change in society as to how people are looking after themselves.
More consciousness of it. But I would suggest the world is getting more negative, and the news is more negative, even than it used to be. And people are feeling overwhelmed by that and switching off.
So answer me this.
The other big camp is it's biased. The news is biased now. And again, the old newsroom way of dealing with that was if both sides of an issue are a bit pissed off with you, then you probably got it right. And that's an old newsroom trope, but it isn't both sides now. Unfortunately, there's a massive growing belief that the media has swung far to the left. Whether it has or not is a different thing. I like to reiterate here that we're talking about perceptions, and that these surveys are a measure of public opinion, not social reality. But public opinion is strongly that the media is biased to the left, and they're sick, and people are sick of being preached at, and there's a lot of woke accusations. I mean, post-pandemic, this might not be very surprising to your audience, but it is significant and important.
Yeah. That's interesting, because the obvious follow-up question from the research that you've done, which is people's perception of the media being untrustworthy, is the media untrustworthy? So do we find that the media is accurate and fair? Is there any research that you've been involved with or looked into to see if the people's perceptions, which you mentioned before, are actually reality or not?
Given the nature of bias, that is very hard to do, because if you accuse something of being biased, it's often about where you're coming from. So
they don't agree with me. They don't agree with me, so they're biased. But when they do agree with me, they're speaking the truth.
Absolutely. That is, and this is why, we're quite careful to underscore that this is research is about people's perceptions, not the reality of the media. No, there's no current measures to say the New Zealand media has or hasn't swung away to the left. But there is quite a bit of anecdotal and some research to show that post-pandemic public opinion is much more mistrusting of social institutions generally. And so some of the research around the world around news trust, and as I said before, there are many countries going through this. Some of the research around news trust shows some connection to the general fall in trust in government, police, and when you ask some people, the media is just part of the establishment. And there is a mainstream media that does appear in a Chomsky type of way to manufacture consent for the social order, if you like. But journalists would say we're not really here to entirely disrupt the social order. That's for revolutionaries. We're here actually just to tell you what's going right or wrong within the framing of mainstream society. So, I think the two huge reasons for news avoidance are a perception of bias and an understanding that the news is making people feel pretty bloody unwell.